Yo, what's up boys? It's Betta here. Happy Christmas and a Merry New Year. I hope you're having an amazing day and welcome to my SeRiouS Poison SrS Necromancer League starter. I originally created this build last league as my own starter that I took all the way through into the endgame without any issues, and I highly recommend it for 3.20 as it was not nerfed and is a solid, chilled, stress-free build. Also, considering this league is based around doing Sanctum rooms and dealing with bosses, you can easily clear them, letting the minions do all of the work while you remain safe to not lose your resolve before the Sanctum ends, allowing you to claim your fat loots without failing. Starting off, you will play as a traditional SRS build to farm up some currency to switch to poison. Going through the campaign is very quick and easy by relying on obtaining just 2 4 links. And once into maps, all you need is about 6 chaos for just a 5 link and a shield. Maybe some other filler gear pieces depending on your resistances. Then you are sorted until the end of yellow maps, where you will switch to Poison SRS that will require about 100, maximum 150 chaos to transition over to. This will then carry you all the way through T16 maps and early bossing very comfortably to acquire the gear for endgame that at most will be costing around about 7, maximum 10 divines or more depending on the market prices, of course. I also have a detailed build guide for the endgame setup that you can find down below in the description should you desire to do uber bosses. I also have a setup for them, but at about a 50, maybe more so, divine cost. The pros of the build is decent mapping clear speed, really good boss DPS with the poisons, and easily achievable gearing, especially from League Start, as it needs almost nothing to get to early red maps while clearing the campaign quickly. It's a minion build, so you do not have to worry about face tanking damage or too much, allowing you to focus more on mechanics. For the cons, it's of course a minion build, and is not desired by everyone, as you might feel like you are doing absolutely nothing. Although the build can get very expensive if you do desire to do uber content though. The build also struggles with cannot regen and degens, but can be countered by using a mana flask. And lastly, it's not a super speedy zoom omega one-shot bosses, but it does get the job done. So how the build works effectively is we give our summon raging spirits a 100% chance to poison via the poison support gem and ghastly eye jewels very early on. By stacking up a lot of attack speed, they are able to apply the poisons very quickly, reducing the ramp up time, and as SRS naturally has a 100% of physical transfer to fire damage, we then take advantage of massive amounts of extra chaos damage to ensure that our SRS applies strong poisons. To further increase the overall damage, the build makes use of wither stacks, jewels, a Despair Curse, our Animate Guardian and Support Spectres, along with our Ascendancy, and of course our Zombies, which is a Meat Shield. Our defense is capped resistances, positive chaos resistance, plus minus 60% attack and spell block, with a decent amount of armor from Determination. Also, we have got somewhat acceptable life regeneration and bone armor too. Later on, we'll of course get Fortify and Crit Immunity and Enfeeble on hit from our Guardian, making our bossing and mapping experience way smoother. In terms of the playstyle, it is very relaxed with being able to summon 4 SRS at a time from Unleash. What makes SRS even better is that they will off-screen enemies while they wander to the nearest enemy, while you can freely pick up your fat loots. When bossing, SRS locks on, allowing you to easily position yourself to avoid most mechanics. You should ensure that Flesh Offering is kept up at all times and can be done so on bossing by using Desecrates, of course. Also use Convocation to keep your minions near and out of harsh damage, while flame dashing for utility or positioning. On stronger enemies, summon your Wither Totems and use your Despair Curse for maximum damage. So, if this piques your SeRiouS poisonous senses, then drop a like on the video and share it to help others find their potential league starter. Also, be sure to smack that subscribe button and to ring the bell to stay updated with my latest videos and live streams on my channel. Right, moving on to the very first path of building that I have set up for you guys. Over here is the 6 Chaos budget version for getting to the end of yellow maps, whereby you can obtain around about 700,000 full DPS with Summon Raging Spirits. And I've got leveling trees for every single act laid out, so you can get your perfect pathing up until you reach mapping. And then in terms of the ascendancy for normal lab, you really want to pick up Commander of Darkness first. This gives your minions the extra damage, and more importantly so, giving you and your minions the extra elemental resistances just to help through the acts. And then for Cruel Lab, you must get Mindless Aggression for the increased damage here once again, and of course some extra attack speed for the minions. And then for your Merciless Lab, obviously you must get Bone Barrier, but it is a choice between Unnatural Strength too, but I recommend getting Bone Barrier just for the extra defense early on, giving additional physical damage reduction to you and the increased recovery rate, but more so for the more minion life over here to make your minions more tanky early on. And then for your last lab, it will be Unnatural Strength, giving your minions 30% of physical as extra chaos damage, but this is only really necessary when you do transfer to the poison version. Right, so underneath the very first part of building, I also have got each act broken down for you in terms of the skill gems and what you should aim to get for each act, making it a lot smoother and easier. And then also I've got some important things just to note which you should pretty much aim for. And more importantly too, you should be using Carnage Chieftain Spectres for the frenzy charges from around about Act 6, I'd recommend, just for the extra attack speed that they do provide, giving a bit more of a quicker campaign. In terms of your early gearing, of course, what you'll want to be using is the Essences of Fear on your Convoking Wand, or any wand pretty much, just for the increased minion damage. And then to acquire your shield with life gain on block with a little bit of life and resistances, and a bone helmet over here for the extra minion damage, obviously with life and resistances once again, and your 5-link body armor, which you should try and obtain as soon as you can. You can have pretty much just anything that you want here. More importantly is going to be life and then resistances followed. And then for your gloves, you'll want to use the Essence of Fear on these two for the minions deal increased damage. And then any extra life resistances is just pretty much a bonus. And then moving on to the boots over here, you must get ones which do have movement speed, any extra resistance, maybe even chaos resistance, and life is a bonus. They are not a must. And then on your amulet, you should have one which has got dexterity and any resistances and life once again. And then for your rings, the same thing, just pretty much resistances and life too. You can get some bone rings early on for the extra elemental resistances, and life, maybe you get some minion attack speed in that if you are lucky, which will be a huge help. And then lastly for the belt here, you should have a strength belt just to bring up your overall strength, and more importantly life with a little bit of resistances will help out too. And for your flasks, you need a normal life flask with immunity to bleeding, I would recommend, although our bone armor does prevent us from bleeding. This is just as an extra precaution for when it is down. And a quicksilver flask for movement, a quartz flask for phasing so you don't get stuck in between enemies, and then more importantly a granite flask for the extra armor over here. And lastly a amethyst flask, which does give a hefty amount of chaos resistance early on, making things a lot easier versus chaos enemies. For the second path of building is your initial Poison SrS setup, whereby the entire skill tree remains unchanged, and so does your ascendancy. The only thing that is to note here is that you should acquire Ghastly Eye Jewels with the minions have a % chance to poison on hit. You'll need 2 of these rolled at 15% socketed into a Darkness Enthroned, and then another jewel just on your skill tree with 15% chance. Obviously, if you can't get ones that are high rolled with 15% chance, you can use 4 of them, but you will only need 3 of them with a 15% chance. And then for the other Ghastly Hour jewel, you will need, more importantly over here, the chance to blind enemy on hit with attacks. Of course, getting attack speed or any extra damage on these jewels is a huge bonus for your minions. And in terms of the wand, you'll want one that has got +1 to level of all minion skills, and the shield is going to remain the same, just with some more life and resistances with the life gain and block. Your bone helmet's the same thing as well, with extra life and resistances. And then you must acquire a 6-link body armor, whether it's corrupted or uncorrupted. It pretty much doesn't matter. All you really do need is life and maybe some resistances if you're missing out on that. And the same thing with the gloves, with the Essence of Fear. Landing any rolls on these is pretty good. And your boots, once again, with high movement speed, a little bit of chaos raise if you can. And then the amulet should have strength and dexterity, more so dexterity for the hard dexterity requirements of the skill gems that you will be using. And then 2 bone rings with life and resists, maybe even some extra minions have attack and cast speed. And I do just want to note that the Amanamu's Gaze Ghastly Hour jewel right here is not necessary for the initial setup. However, it will be really, really awesome if you do acquire it, which will push you to about 3 million DPS or so. And this should get you through your red maps and early bossing without any problems. And the life flasks and your utility flasks all remain the same. And I've also got the gearing priority, which you should probably follow, or you can just pretty much gear however you can find the items or so forth. And then of course underneath the skills is all of the recommended skills which you should be using. Of course, you don't have to have everything set up perfectly, but it is highly recommended that you do set it up exactly like I have it set up over here. And then lastly, I do also just want to note real quick that you should anoint death attunements onto your amulet for the extra spectre, so you can have 3 utility spectres. And you should also probably acquire some items for your animate guardian, being the Dying Breath, a Leocast, a Belly of the Beast, some gloves which have got curse enemies with enfeeble on hits. This is to make bossing very easy. And then some windscreen boots for the extra additional curse. That way you can curse and your animate guardian can curse too, so you can double curse enemies. For the third path of building that I have set up for you guys is the actual setup of the build, whereby you will need a United in Dream Sword for the chance to poison enemies on hit and minion leech and the extra minion damage. And the shield will remain the same. The bone helmet is also going to be the same. The only thing that you really must get on it is the Summon Raging Spirits deal 40% increased damage in chant. And then of course for your body armor is going to be the Covenant, giving the level 29 added chaos damage. I do just want to note here that once you do have this chest piece, that you will be using mana and life to use your abilities. So you do just need to remember that. And then obviously the gloves remain the same, and same with the boots, just more chaos resistance. The amulet, you should seek to get one with +1 to level of all skill gems. This helps out on your auras and of course your minion skills. And then the same thing with the bone rings, and the belt over here is still going to be the Darkness Enthroned. However, now instead of having chance to poison on hit jewels, you should look for ones whereby minions deal increased damage if you've used a minion skill recently, which is always, and a high amount of flat added chaos damage is very, very important on these jewels. Of course, acquiring some life on them too will be rather helpful, just to bump up your health pool just a little bit more. For your 5th jewel, you should have one whereby your minions taunt and blind on hit. Of course, the additional chaos damage is a bonus here with life. And then a Amanamu's Gaze, giving an extra 30% damage multi for your poisons. This does help us ramp our damage to over 13 million Pinnacle Boss DPS. And then of course the flasks remain the same, nothing too special there. and the skills are all the same too. And then in your United in Dream sword, what you should have linked in here is Generosity to further increase the aura effect, giving you even more flat added chaos damage to your minions, so they can deal a hefty amount of damage too. Underneath the notes, I have got the gearing priority, once again, just like the previous Path of Building. And I've also got the specters, which you should be using in terms of utility. And underneath the Animate Guardian item set is the Kingmaker along with the Leah casts. The Kingmaker is really, really good for the fortification and the culling strike that it provides. And the Garb of the Ephemeral is very important here because it allows enemies to not deal critical strikes to you and your minions, giving a huge amount of survivability. And then once again on the gloves is just enfeeble on hit and the windscreen boots here. I do also just want to quickly note that underneath the notes section over here, whereby I've got the trade links for the gear and the Animate Guardian gear, I will be updating these as soon as 3.20 is out. Okay, and lastly, I've got the super endgame Path of Building as well. Should you want to do uber bossing and so forth, then you can make use of this Path of Building, whereby we take advantage of Awaken gems and a few spicy alternate quality gems too. And in terms of the gear, you'll switch out your shield for an Aegis Aurora, and we do make use of an Ashes of the Stars for the reservation efficiency of skills to fit in an extra aura and the level of all skill gems and some crazy ghastly eye jewels and so forth. And then of course a large cluster jewel which has got Courts of Slaughter, Feasting Fiends and Renewal. And then you'll want to get your medium clusters with Renewal as well. So in total, our minions have got a 15% chance to deal double damage, along with Grave Pact giving them a 21% chance to deal double damage. This might be overkill, but I feel like it is necessary. And then of course, Blessed Rebirth. So your minions that have been created recently cannot be damaged. This is very important. And on the other one is Dread March, just giving your minions a little bit extra survivability. What you can expect from this endgame version for the Uber bosses is about 5 million Uber Pinnacle Boss DPS, along with a decent effective hit pool, of course, and huge recovery from the Aegis Aurora shield, allowing you not to die easily during your encounters. Should you have enjoyed this build guide, then drop a like on the video and share it to help others to find their potential league starter perhaps. And be sure to smack that subscribe button and to ring the bell to stay updated with my latest videos and live streams that I do right here on YouTube. Thanks for watching, Exile, and I'll see you in the next video or live stream.